Hey Capricorn, and welcome to your monthly reading for Capricorn, Sun or Rising. This is the monthly reading for Sun or Rising Capricorn for the month of April. Let's make sure that these are all right side up. So we're going to keep with the layout that I've been doing for the last couple of months until, I don't know, until I feel called to change it. Until people ask me to, maybe. But it's just been working so far really well and very helpful. I thought I felt that card, but let's keep going. I want to make sure that it feels right. So this particular card, this deck, we're using this to help us direct the energy because it is an actual, okay, we're leaving that. Because we're actually getting, like, you know, we're doing a collective reading. We want to try to see how we can give a little bit more direction as to like what themes are coming up, like how to direct what the information is that's coming through to like certain area of your life or certain themes in your life. Clearly, your world is very up. I just get fuzz everywhere. There we go. So we've got Saturn and the 10th house. First of all, the 10th house is ruled by Saturn. The 10th house is also a Capricorn house, which is obviously Saturn ruled. So talk about doing a reading that's already very aligned with Capricornian energy. Boom, here we go. Saturn and the 10th house. So this is what's up. And I'm feeling this deck for you guys. So we're going to go ahead with this deck and we're going to check out some cards for, these are more slick, these particular cards, I've noticed. We're taking a look at the beginning. Interesting. That makes sense. The middle and the end of the month for you, so that we can get a sense of like how the month is progressing, how it's unfolding, what themes are really coming up. And then we'll take a look also at a challenge card and a spiritual advice card for you as well, which I may pull that from another deck. We'll see. So let's get a sense of what is coming through. I feel like this is the card, and I felt like that was the card also. Interesting. There we go. Huh. Okay. And I'm hunting over here. Let's take a look at the challenge card that's coming up. And actually, yep, I'm feeling this one. Okay. Okay. Well, that is a challenging card. And let's take a look at the spiritual advice that is coming through. I feel like it's this card here. And I'm also feeling like one more card that I want to pull from a deck that is adorable. So what other spiritual advice do we have for my Capricorns? You guys happen to be getting, actually, I think these are the most cards that I pulled for any of the other signs. Maybe Virgo comes close. I don't know. So let's take a look at the spiritual advice that's also coming through. Okay, interesting, Capricorns. This is a very, very interesting reading. Let's take a look. Let's bring this in to make sure that everything is in frame for you. So let's do that. Let's get that all in frame. All right, Capricorn. So we start out the reading by taking a look at what I was just talking about, which is, okay, like what area of life can we say this reading is talking about? What is it? What is your attention being directed to? And, you know, when we look at the 10th house, what we're talking about is your career, literally your career. You know, this is a Capricornian house. This is also about like what it takes to get to the top, to be number one, to get up there. You know, the integrity, the determination, the consistency, the commitment, right? To get there, to make it. And it's also a very public house, right? It's definitely seen. It's up there. It's out in the world. So it's definitely a very seen house. And then we have that like doubled up with Saturn. And like I was saying, you know, Capricorn is ruled by Saturn. Capricorn is the house that is like the 10th house is Capricorn. And so even more so, the themes of Saturn are coming up. And when we talk about the themes of Saturn, we're not just talking about the things that I mentioned, but specific to Saturn, we're talking about the lessons that come through, right? Like how we learn. Saturn is like Big Daddy, like lesson teacher, right? So, you know, sometimes that can feel kind of harsh. Sometimes it can feel really cold and constricting and restrictive. And sometimes it can just feel like the benefit of Saturn, like the beauty of Saturn, is that it creates structure, it creates form. So we're talking about like your 10th house, and we're talking about like the ways in which you're creating structure and form in this world, like how you're structuring this world, right? Also, yeah, your level of dedication to this, and where you might be feeling restricted or some kind of boundaries related to that feel like they're, you know, keeping you from maybe moving in the ways that you would like. The thing about Saturn, the thing about Capricorn, is it teaches us resilience. You know, it gives us things to push against, to move up against, to move past and above, in order to discover for ourselves what we're made of, like if we're worth our salt, right? And also there's a level of integrity that comes with this as well, right? So you know, just to point out some of the cool things about Saturn and Capricorn in the 10th house, just because, you know, as I've progressed in my journey of becoming an astrologer and continue to progress along that path, because it's just never ending, I've learned to have an appreciation for the energy of Saturn, even though sometimes I'm really not a fan of how I get smacked on the ass with it, but you know, there it is. So this is the area of life that we're paying attention to. And first off, why I said I thought it was like super appropriate is because the first card that we have out is the Three of Wands. And the Three of Wands is definitely about making those moves, right? Right before this, the card right before, obviously the Two of Wands, but the card right before this is like you are standing at the precipice of all of these possibilities in your life. You could go anywhere, you could do anything, like anything can happen, right? And it's really just kind of like sitting with that and making a decision about what you wanted to do, like where you wanted to go, how you wanted to, like which path did you want to take, right? Now we're sitting inside of the Three of Wands. So we come into the beginning of this month and you're like, all right, it's time to make things move. Like it's time to enact my plans, right? This is the time to actually put your plans into action, and you're being asked to make your moves. So you got the plan, you're on the path, now follow through and make things happen, right? And sometimes we get along the way and we've like chosen a path and we're like making things go and happen. And, you know, of course we get detoured in life, we go in different directions, but we wouldn't get there if we weren't taking action and moving our plans forward. We have to do that in order to get to the next place, right? Wherever it takes us after that. So we have that coming up, and then definitely I'm seeing that, you know, in the middle of the month, a theme that's coming up is who are you working with? Who are you collaborating with, right? This is definitely, it can be about community, but it can also be about more so who you're choosing to team up with to build this that you're building. So maybe you're working on a particular project. Like even if you don't work for yourself and you're not an entrepreneur, you don't have to be an entrepreneur for this to be true for you. Like you could be working within a company and it's like you're working on a project, and it's like, who's on your team? Who are you working with? Who are the people that you've got by your side to help you create the vision that you want to create? What are their strengths, right? Normally we see three people inside of the Three of Pentacles all working together to build something. And it's like each one of them has a different role. Each one of them has a strength that they add to this project, right? To building this thing. So when it comes to a project or your business, if you are an entrepreneur, like whatever it is, you want to consider who are the people that you got on your team now? Who are you keeping on your team? How are you building your team? How are you co-creating with other people? Who are you teaming up with? Who are you collaborating with? Like all of these different kinds of things want to be considered, and building, right? This is definitely the Three of Pentacles. Normally we see there's an architect as one of the three people that are inside of that. And we're talking about like, okay, well, how are you, like, you know, architecting, like how are you building, how are you creating the form and the structure for this? Very much looking at this Saturn vibe, right? We come to the end of the month, and I think that it's like really interesting because the Temperance card is speaking to, I mean, part of the Temperance card is like staying true to yourself and your vision, but I think even more than that, it's interesting because it's so interesting because in tarot, the Temperance card is associated with the Sagittarius. And so, but the meaning of the Temperance card, I've always just kind of felt like it's like I have sometimes a hard time connecting it completely to Sagittarius. I feel like there are other more Sagittarian cards. But anyway, it is a Sagittarius card, you know, so And there is like with the Sagittarius, there's like this hope and optimism, and like that's part, and they're philosophers and they're all these different things, which is why I think I'm like, I don't know, there could be other ones. But anyway, returning back to this, I digress. So this is about blending together seemingly disparate aspects of either life or like the people that you've got on your team or whatever it is. Like there are different things that you're considering and needing to like pull together to create a third option, a new form, right? This is all about this alchemical kind of process, which she is like pouring these liquids from one cup to the other, and in the blending of the two of them, creating a completely new liquid, a third liquid, and one that is congruent and harmonious and that works together very well. So it's blending together. Maybe you're blending together different aspects of your life. Maybe it's different personalities of people on your team. Maybe it's different ideas that you have for your business, and you're moving those things back and forth together to see like how can they come together and be harmonious and be one, right? And doing this also while you're staying in a space of like, yeah, this feels true to me. Like I'm staying true to myself or to the process or whatever it is, definitely bringing that back to some of that integrity there. So moving on, I feel like that's an interesting like unfolding of the month. With that, it's kind of interesting that your challenge card is the Tower card, right? I mean, nobody likes seeing the Tower card, especially not in a challenge position. So what I'm going to say specifically about this is definitely about the form and like what you're creating. I definitely think you need to be very careful about, you know, who you're adding to your work team, right? Like who are the people, like be discerning about who you're adding. And also don't be so rigid to the form that you're creating. You might find that you're creating a structure and like you're getting people on your team, or like you're creating something and you feel like you're on this path. And then at some point in the month, you're going to feel like, oh shit, like I need to go back to the drawing board. Like I just put so much time, energy, and attention into creating this structure, this foundation, right? That's part of what the Tower card is. The Tower card is like, you know, the form that it was taking, the foundation that it had, the structure that was being built wasn't going to be sustainable, and it wasn't going to hold up to the elements, the challenges of life. The structure wasn't going to hold form, and it was going to come down at some point. It just needed to come down. So you have this like things, the structure breaks apart, it comes to the ground, it gets leveled in order for us to go back to the drawing board and be like, okay, I need to re-envision this, I need to reimagine this, I need to like create something that's more sustainable or has more stability or structure in this way, whatever it is, right? So it gives us a chance to come back to the beginning and start fresh, right? So to start, maybe not completely over, maybe in some cases, yes, but like to say, okay, that form wasn't working. So good that we got that out of the way so that we didn't crash later on. So now let's like pivot and use this, what seems like a disappointment or something difficult, pivot that and use that as an opportunity to say like, okay, maybe that form wasn't going to work for this project, and we need to like re-envision how we're actually going to do this so that it can be successful, so that it can move forward in a successful way. And I think part of that can be like having some flexibility about how the structure and the form like comes together, and also utilizing the strengths of the people on your team, whoever's like on your team with you. Like hear their ideas, like be a little bit flexible about this, and just know that like whatever hiccups come up along the way, don't let it totally tear you down and take you down, right? Like here's the thing to know, and here's the spiritual advice that you're actually getting here. So I'm going to start here with the 8 of Swords. The 8 of Swords is where we usually like we pin ourselves, we back ourselves into a corner, and we believe our limiting beliefs, we believe our limiting thoughts, and we believe that we only have one choice or two choices. It's like this or nothing, right? And it creates a lot of stress and strain and pressure for us, but it also feels like it's basically where we've given away our power to the world, to nobody, right? Like we've freely given it away because we are backing ourselves into a corner and we're believing untrue thoughts. So your spiritual advice is telling you, question your limiting beliefs. When you come up against things that feel like difficult or hard or stressful or whatever it is, like back up for a second and widen your perspective so that you can actually see there's more choice and possibility available to you than what you're perceiving, because what you're perceiving isn't actually so. So question your thoughts, question your beliefs. Maybe you need to have more flexibility around things, or to be able to pivot in a different way. So don't close off, and don't, like, basically this is kind of like when we're saying like, I have no choice, and like the world did this to me and I'm backed into this corner now and I can't do anything else. And it's like, don't believe that, question that. When you come up into those spaces, especially when you're experiencing any kind of challenges or difficulty, question that, question your thoughts, like do Byron Katie's work if you need to. And then like part of your other spiritual advice is like, hey, slow and steady wins the race. You might want this to go faster than it's going, but it's like you're creating, like, the thing about the Knight of Pentacles, yeah, Knight of Pentacles, is that like out of all of the knights, all of the knights are about taking action, right? But out of all of the knights, the Knight of Pentacles is the one who takes steady, measured steps, who is strategic, and who looks ahead at what lies before him on the battleground, and like how he strategically wants to go at this, like where he wants to go, what approach he wants to take. He's more pragmatic, also more slow moving because of that, but slow moving in a way that is going to be the most beneficial. And perhaps this is the advice that you need to really heed for this process while you are like going through this process of building, or that things are like you running into hiccups as like you're creating the foundation, as you're making your moves, as you're doing all these things and trying to like bring all these pieces and parts together. That like part of the understanding to have here is like, all right, slow and steady wins the race, right? One step at a time. We're still moving forward. It might be going at a slower pace than I want it to, but that's like, this is the process. It's more grounded. It's going to build something that's probably more stable and better laid out for the future. So I feel like this reading is like really, really clear. It's so interesting. Like Sag also had a really clear reading as well. Like very, very clear, and a couple other ones today. So yeah, this is what I've got for you. Definitely, like, if this is your sun sign and you're kind of feeling like you want more of the rest of the picture, check out your rising sign as well, right? And see what that has to say, or look at the moon reading that that was for your sign for the end of the month in March, or in a few days. I'm actually going to have a new reading out for this next moon phase, and you can check that out as well. So I would say, make sure that you subscribe, hit the notification bell so that you're up on that. And always, my personal readings are available where we get really, really specific and granular, and you can do 30, 60, or 90-minute readings. And that information is all down below. So I will see you in the next video. Thanks. Bye.